start with an upbeat note based on what Lana just said, because recently I think it was a family member just asked me if I'm not tired of fighting all these agreements and losing all the time. So I thought about that question, and I realized that we have won the most important ones so far. The big multilateral agreements, we have beaten them. We beat the multilateral agreement on investment in 1999, which was an agreement that the European Union and the United States and Mexico wanted to sign to bring in all these international investment rules under one big umbrella. But we fought it. Then, as Elena said, in 2005, we beat the free trade area of the Americas, which was a major battle among us, Latin Americans and North Americans, and the governments of the hemisphere, led by President Bush. Then we beat the WTO in Cancun, because the governments of the rich countries wanted to bring into the WTO also these investment rules that we're fighting today with the TPP. And they couldn't bring them in. That's why they've been so frustrated so far about the WTO, because it's not the forum they want to control the world with these rules. And more recently, the marvelous visit of the raging grannies reminded me that the first time I saw them was when they were riding in their old cars into Montebello, Quebec, when we were, many of us, Mexicans, Americans, and Canadians, went there to demonstrate against the summit of the Security and Prosperity Partnership. I don't know if you remember that SPP, the Security and Prosperity Partnership that Bush was organizing to extend the perimeter of security to Canada and Mexico, and to continue implementing neoliberal policies under the region. So this SPP was also defeated thanks to the action of citizens in the three countries. And what did Obama do? He just changed the S for a T, and now he wants to sign this TPP. Well, I'm very concerned about the Trans-Pacific Partnership, because as I said, we defeated in 2005 the free trade area of the Americas, and now the TPP signifies a division going all along Latin America. As you can see, the countries in blue are part of what is called the Alianza del Pacífico, the Pacific Alliance, which are the countries that are also participating in the Trans-Pacific Partnership. Well, Colombia and some Central American countries are not in the TPP yet, but most probably they will be. Some Central American countries like Costa Rica have already asked to be part of it. In green, we see the countries that form the Mercosur, which is an alternative trade agreement among southern countries of South America. And in red, the countries of the ALBA, which are the most antagonistic countries to the United States: Venezuela, Bolivia, Ecuador. But what the TPP is doing is forming this alliance of countries in the Pacific that are more docile to the dictates and the hegemonic expansion of the United States across the world. So what we're seeing is a big division in Latin America, which is breaking the integrationist aspirations that we Latin Americans have. Okay, this is again the map of the problem is that being the last, I have to skip through things that have already been said. So I want to jump, because we have little time, just to give up some examples of investor-state disputes already going on in Latin America, or of which Latin American countries are being subjected to. And what you can see is a study that we did at the Institute for Policy Studies, that you can access it in our webpage. We just updated it to 2013. But you can see this cover of the previous study, in which we see two photographs. The one on the left is the house in the Hamptons of a guy called Ira Rennert, who owns a company called Dow Run. Ira Rennert is one of the, I don't know exactly the number, but he's worth like $8 billion. He's under the Forbes list. And he owns the most expensive house in the United States, according to reports. But that's an aerial view of his impressive chateau, like a real European castle. And on the left, on my left, you can see the town of La Roya in Peru, which is the most polluted site, one of the 10 most polluted sites in the world, according to the World Health Organization. Because there's a smelter that has polluted 200 children are suffering very bad illnesses because of the lead in their lungs, some of death, etc. But this guy, Ira Rennert, well, the case is that Peru, the government of Peru decided to close the smelter because the owner, Don Ron, failed to clean up the smelter as he said he would. And many times, he had many chances and he failed. So in the end, the government of Peru decided to shut down that smelter. However, this guy, Ira Rennert, and his company, Don Ron, has sued the government of Peru for $800 million. And that is at an international tribunal here in New York called the UNCITRAL trial. So Peru is being subjected to $800 million because of the responsible action of closing down a highly polluting smelter. So this is one of the most egregious cases in which we, Public Citizen and Sierra Club and others are working on. But it's not the only one. I just came back from El Salvador a few days ago. I still have a little, well, not jet lag because it's America, a little tired. We went on a mission to see different sites where Canadian and US companies want to mine. And because of the resistance of the people and the struggle, the Salvadoran government has prohibited gold mining in the country because of the highly polluting effects that it has. You know, they have to use cyanide, and the cyanide has polluted already the water of El Salvador. And they have little water left, and the people is struggling to have their last remnants of water clean. El Salvador decided to prohibit gold mining, but now is being subjected to $350 million by two companies, one Canadian and another one commerce group from the United States. Sorry, 450 between both of them. So what we're seeing is struggles everywhere. You know, that is the people trying to fight mining. That photo on the bottom is called Los Niños del Plomo. It's a documentary of the lead children, how the lead children in Peru, the case I just mentioned. But there are even bigger cases like Chevron against Ecuador, and Philip Morris is suing countries all over. I don't know how many countries it has sued, but for example, Uruguay is being subjected to one suit from Philip Morris because Uruguay, the government decided that the labeling of packages had to be improved so people have better information about the impacts of tobacco in the health. So Philip Morris is suing Uruguay. And you know what a company like Philip Morris can do? Because there is no bilateral investment treaty between the United States and Uruguay. But what Philip Morris can do is use any bilateral investment treaty in the world with another country because they have offices everywhere. So they're suing Uruguay under the bilateral investment treaty between Switzerland and Uruguay. And the same goes on with Australia. This is why Australia, and I'm going to conclude with this is why Australia is the one country that is against including investor state in the Trans-Pacific Partnership. Among other reasons, but this one is very, very important, because Philip Morris sued already Australia under a bilateral investment treaty between Hong Kong and Australia because of the same reason, because of health concerns. So every realm of public life, everywhere around the world, is being threatened, not only by the TPP, but by other free trade agreements. We have here in the United States another monstrous free trade agreement looming, which is the European Union and the United States free trade agreement, which negotiations will start soon, June or July. And last, I just want to mention that NAFTA is going to be 20 years on the 1st of January of 2014. As the Zapatistas who rose 20 years ago, we must say again, ya basta. Ya basta el TPP y basta de free trade agreements. Gracias.
Okay, great. So thank you to all of our speakers. Let's have a round of applause for all of our speakers. Okay, so a couple quick announcements, and then we're going to open for Q&A, then we'll have a couple more announcements after that, and then we'll hear about what we're going to do next. First quick thing. These here are just about to make their way around the room. Everyone should sign these. This is the sheet that will allow us to be in touch with you after today. It'll also help us know what congressional district you're in and in what ways you might like to be further involved. So if you didn't sign this sheet at the door, there's another sheet, but if you didn't sign this particular sheet that looks like this, be sure to sign this when this goes around. There's also a petition that's about to circulate on the connection on how TPP is going to limit access to life-saving medicines. So you can also sign that, but be sure to sign the sign-up sheet that's about to go around. Okay, so we're going to open to questions, and then yeah, it seems like most people have signed it, but let's remind people, you already on your seats should have postcards that you should sign. So here's one of them. See these little cards here? If you have questions, you can write your questions on these and bring them up to the front, and then we will direct those. Oh, sorry, volunteers will collect those and getting updates on the spot. And those will be directed to the speakers. So again, we'll have a couple other bits and pieces after the questions, but let's go into the questions. So the first question we have here is, how are congressional representatives barred from knowing the text of the TPP? Isn't this illegal? Who wants to field that one?
Okay, here. I can start. Is this working? Yeah. And the short answer is, unfortunately, it's not illegal. The system in which our trade agreements are conducted and negotiated is very different from the system in which other laws and policies are negotiated. For example, Senator Wyden, a senator from Oregon, he is the chair of the Senate Committee on Finance, which is the committee with jurisdiction over trade, was actually denied access to the text, even though that's his primary jurisdiction. He had to introduce a piece of legislation called Congressional Oversight Over Trade Negotiations Act, just in order to get access himself to the trade negotiations. So, that's the short answer, but it in fact is legal to conduct these negotiations under such incredible secrecy. 3.5 years into the set of negotiations, governments wanting to conclude by October, and not a word of draft text has been released.
Okay, any other comments on that, or can we move on to the next question? Okay, great. Next question is, what strategies are being used to involve colleges and universities in the campaign against TPP?
I can take that one. As public citizen, we travel around the country, and we really do try to focus in on colleges and universities while folks are there and able to do things other than study. To be honest, it's been a real challenge because of the flow of student life and where they are. So we're trying to hit people in their communities wherever they are. So whether it's college or whether they're back home, we follow people there.
Okay, next question is specifically directed at Manuel. Why would a country like Peru, with an $800 million suit for shutting a smelter, be interested in TPP? Was it strong-armed? Is this the old transnational elites and this is why oral questions have an advantage over questions on cards, in something? I think we could probably get to this.
Well, I think the question has the answer. Yeah, it is the elites of Peru, the elites of Mexico, the elites of Costa Rica, the elites of every country that are benefited by these agreements because they internationalize their businesses. They are part of an international circuit of capital. It is not nations against nations that compete in free trade agreements. It is free trade agreements are about giving corporations from all over, these enhanced rights. And so we have in Mexico, for example, in my country, Mexico, a huge elite. You have the richest man in the world, Carlos Slim, and a handful of corporations that are getting richer and richer with NAFTA, and so on with Peru. So yes, that's the answer.
Hello? Is this working? Is this working?
Yeah.
That's all I just wanted to say. You said the magic word. So just a little step back. Previously, trade agreements were about tariffs, the charges on goods imported and exported. But that's changed because the structure of the corporation has changed. Now corporations, the big ones, are globally integrated enterprises that have supply chains that cover many different countries and value chains that cover many different countries in terms of the distribution and their markets. So what they're looking for in these agreements is they are economic integration agreements for corporations in terms of their making the world safe for their supply chains, which is what this investor state is all about, and the attack on protections that particular countries have to protect their workers, their environment, health, safety, and things like that, and for their value chains. So these extend, as you mentioned, to all these different countries that want to be part of this value chain that is controlled by these mega corporations. They're not multinational anymore. They're not like they used to be. This is a transformation in the evolution of the corporation itself. Globally integrated enterprise. That's the key word. And that's what's driving these so-called trade agreements that are really economic integration agreements. Forget the trade part. It's much bigger. It extends to everything. And you'll hear a word called harmonization. They want to harmonize. They don't want to have Peru with its specific laws, rules, and regulations. They don't want the United States to have its own rules and regulations and all these fragmented types of things that they have to deal with in their decisions of where they're going to have their supply, their locus of supply, or their factories, or their contracts, and things like that. They want to harmonize it. And they don't want to harmonize it up. They want to harmonize it down. And that's what our fight is. It's an economic, it's environmental, and it's democratic fight of our lives.
Okay. Okay, next question is, why would governments want to participate in an agreement that would undermine their own sovereignty? And after we get the answer to this question, Stephanie is going to read the next few questions. But who wants to, anyone want to field this one?
Okay. Well, I think it's related to the last question. I mean, what we've said responds a little bit to this. But also I want to say that there's a lot of corruption in this process. A lot of corruption. There are, there's a very important document released by the Transnational Institute of Amsterdam that relates how very tiny, dark bunch of lawyers control this industry. This industry of defending countries and defending corporations behind doors. And there's a lot of money around this industry. So there's a lot of corruption as well between governments and lawyers and all these back deals that we don't know about. But we have to do more research, analyze more how this whole thing is operating.
I would just add one other thing, which is maybe to point out the obvious, but there's a huge power inequity between the countries in the TPP. So you have the United States, which is the country that's advancing these investment rules. And you have a country like Peru or Vietnam that they just don't have the same negotiating power as the United States has. And yet there's this dominant ideology out there that you cannot develop and you can't attract investment unless you sign on to these type of agreements. So countries are left with very little negotiating power, even if secretly, or review in private conversations, there's actually a lot of concern. There is the impression that there is no alternative, that these are the rules that will sort of unlock development, even though evidence shows that it's actually the opposite that is true. And just to say on the investment rules in particular, again, the dominant ideology, what the United States says to other countries is you need to sign these agreements, these investment chapters, to get access to investment, where we can show you a list of studies that actually show there's very little to no correlation between actual foreign direct investment and signing on to investor-state dispute settlement and these investment chapters. It's actually things like infrastructure and electricity and educated workforces that are what drives investment, not these investor protections. But yet that's not the story that's being told, and that's not the negotiating power that's in play.
And I just want to add one thing to what you all said about the corruption. I neglected in my earlier description of the investor-state dispute resolution system and the foreign tribunals, I neglected to say that it's set up by, we have 3 unelected judges, right? And these judges are sometimes attorneys representing the corporations, and sometimes they're judges deciding on the cases in these foreign tribunals. And so it's set up to be unfair, to be completely unfair. They don't abide by any rules. They have job security for ever and ever if they'd like it. And there are absolutely no appeals to the decisions that they make. And so it just adds on and highlights the corruption that Manuel started to talk about.
I just want to add one thing about the corruption. What I mean also is this thing called the revolving door between government officials and industry or business. Many times and I think it happens also in the United States and in Europe, or in Latin America, for example, many of the people that work in governments, once their government is over, they go and work in very, very high positions in the boards of foreign companies or national or transnational companies. So this is what I mean by corruption also. There is this, that they are part of this ruling. The main negotiators of these agreements are part of these agreements. They're not different. They're not representing the international interests. And just to add what Lana said, the best example, I think, of how these agreements are not necessary to attract foreign investment, I think, is Brazil. Brazil is a country that hasn't ratified or doesn't have in place one single bilateral investment treaty or free trade agreement, and is by far the country that has been attracting for several years more investment in Latin America. Compared to Mexico, even, you can see that.
Okay, as the bad cop of this organizing group, I have to say that we are supposed to be out of the hall by 9:20. There's an extremely important segment of the meeting that is to happen right now. There are, I would say, a good 25 questions here. I'm going to ask only one, and then we can go on, and then I think we're going to have to stop. If you have questions that didn't get answered, please feel free to talk with our speakers, okay? But the one question I do want to take, because it's a overriding one, and the question is, it sounds naive, but I think it's important. Is TPP conceived as a platform for world government?
I just do an end around here. And I think the issue with world government is corporate power. And the bottom line to all that we're talking about here is power. Now, a lot of people think of power as a zero-sum game. They've got it, we don't. We have to take it, and we have to get it from them. But it's not like that. Power is created, and we create power. They have power. They have money, but we create power. If you look throughout our history, we working people, working families, progressives, however you want to term ourselves, do-gooders, tree huggers, union thugs, whatever you want to call us. You look throughout the history, and it's a history of movements that have been created by us and have swept and created power to change the world. You go back to the revolution and about the taxation and power of government and corporations back then over people in terms of their say and decisions. You look at the abolition movement. You look at the progressive movement. You look at the suffrage movement, suffragette movement. You look at the labor movement. We're just moving through history in the 30s. You look at the civil rights movement. You look at the environmental movement. You look at the women's movement. You look at the consumer movement. These are waves that have spread across this country and the world because of people like us acting in concerted action. And that challenged the powers that be. So the Great Depression and the fight against the merchants, Roosevelt talked about throwing the merchants out, just like the parable in the Bible, the stuff like that. And it's up to us to create a movement, to create power, to fight this. And this is happening all over the world. Thousands of people in Japan are going into the streets fighting against the TPP. Malaysia, all over. And we are part of that, you are part of it, and it depends on us to create power.
Okay, I want to thank our speakers, and I want to ask everyone here to stay for the part where we discover how to use our power. We have the power to impact, influence our congressional representatives. If we don't use it, they will do what the lobbyists tell them to do. So it's extremely important to find out how to lobby, and that's the next segment of this event. Please stay for that. Please get involved, and please call, write, and visit your congressional members.